Get focused and combine it with patience. Once you discover what you want to do and what you want to be, it might take some time. So patience is key.
The bamba yera nai doa bia nanzongo lep kamona. Anjo okwa.
But to the youth, I say seek to add value to yourself. Add value to yourself. Whether it is in terms of developing your business, academics, whatever, add value to yourself, and therefore you'll be able to move on in life.
You can look up to somebody like a role model, somebody that you think has made an impact in life.
So why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, a son of Musa Kumo, as my guests and I thrill you to life-changing stories. Thank you so much for hooking on to my Northern Achiever with me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, son of Musa Kumo. It's another week, and it's always a delight to come your way with the program. And today I have another important guest in my midst. We bring you nothing but the best on my Northern Achiever. Don't go away. I'm going for a very quick commercial break. I'm back shortly after I introduce my guest and we start the program. We'll be back shortly. Every week, my team and I work tirelessly to bring to you prominent Northerners, one at a time. They tell us their stories of how they grew up, the struggles they have been through, and how they attained greater heights in life.
I used also to paint Ankara.
What do you guys say? I've shown so many things.
I learned mechanic work, what we call filter today.
Further, they give pieces of advice to the youth and parents alike that, if adhered to, will change society positively.
I job here. This only born.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Now, you must trust in yourself, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself.
You must always pray for people to succeed in their various fields. Then Allah will give you what He thinks is best for you.
Wherever we find ourselves, let's see how do we support each other.
Young people must learn to spend within their means and to grow, always save before you spend.
So why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, a son of Musa Kumo, with your family and friends every Friday at 8:30 p.m. on your favorite TV station, Sagani TV, on My Northern Achiever, as my guests and I thrill you to life-changing stories. Follow me on social media at Jalil Naabeli, like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube page, both at My Northern Achiever, for present and past videos, as well as more info. Thank you so much for staying with me on My Northern Achiever. My name is Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. I am a son of Musa Kumo. And today, like I said before, I have another important guest in my midst, a very young man, an affable young man, who have, against all the odds, is making a big name in the arts industry. And sometimes I look at this young man who is more or less of my age, and what he has achieved for himself, it tells me that, it's not just by Sakawa or Gaja that you can make it in life. And so today we are going to talk about him, how he grew up, things that he has done in life, how he has struggled to get to where he is and where he wants to reach in life. If anyone is not yet on their close to their TV sets, call them and tell them that I have with me today Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Mahama. Mr. Mahama, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's been great having you on the show, even though we've not started, but I'm so excited because a couple of times we've tried to do this, but you're always in and out of the country as if it's no one's business. And so today we are here, and I want us to start by talking about who you really are. And so if someone would have asked you, who is old man? Because I know this is what you are called in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually born here in Tamale.
Okay.
My father is Alhaji Sharif
Ibrahim Mahama.
Okay.
Popularly known as Savannah.
Savannah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was born here in Tamale in 1987. And then I think when I was about 3 years old or so, we moved to Accra.
Okay.
Yeah, so I practically grew up in Accra,
okay.
where I had most of my schooling.
All right.
So from kindergarten to primary school, I went to St. John Preparatory in Accra.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I went to a different school, Star Avenue, which is at JSS. And then afterwards, secondary school, I went to Pope John Senior High.
Okay. Okay.
And then from there, I went to KNUST, where I studied painting and sculpture at the art department.
Okay.
And
that was a degree program.
A degree program.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went back there in 2011 to do my master's in painting and sculpture.
Okay.
And then in 2015 again to do the PhD.
Wow.
Painting and sculpture. So practically I've been in KNUST for the last 14 years.
So you are a doctor?
Well, soon to be.
Okay, you are still in the process.
Yeah, I'm in my final year, so hopefully by next year I should be done.
Now, I hardly ask my guests this question, but with you, I would want to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 32.
Wow.
I'm very old.
No, you are not very old, because if you are 32, then it means I'm older than you. But look at what you are getting. Look at what you are getting for yourself.
No, it's not a matter of that. I think we all have different aims and ambitions in life, and also depends on the field in which you find yourself and what you really want to do.
Wow.
Sometimes there are people who achieve quite a lot for themselves economically within a field, but they don't really think about how that somehow comes back to benefit society in a way, or to open up a certain space or discourse. So for me, that's what I've been very much interested in from the beginning, how to further liberate the field in which you come from. And that's what I actually picked up when I was in the art school at KNUST.
Wow, this is just intriguing. You know, I just can't but to revere this young man, you know. And by the end of the program, I believe you would understand why I'm so excited having him with me. Now, let's talk a little more about family, because, you know, family is very important. Sometimes where we grow up, the kind of upbringing we get can actually push us to get into greater heights. Now, what kind of upbringing did you get? What kind of family do you come from?
Well, I think a lot of people are quite familiar with my family here in Tamale. My father, as everyone knows, he's very, very disciplined. So I grew up with all my siblings, both within Accra and here in Tamale and other places. My father isn't someone who would choose wrong over right. Yes, and I think his principle has always been for his children to give them the best of education, and also just that sense of integrity. You know, I think for him, he's always said that integrity is worth any.
It's worth more than any
other thing. You can't place integrity over anything. So if you have a chance to actually make a contribution to your people, because at the end of the day, how much do we really need in order to live? Because sometimes people think that, oh, you know, you have to get and amass, but it doesn't end up
to what end?
To what end?
Actually, the grave.
You know? So I think that it's more important for people to raise their children to be more socially conscious, more about community building. And I think for me, when I went to art school, because of the history of art itself, and also because of different regime changes, also within our own history with Kwame Nkrumah during the independence period, let's say liberating Ghana, and thinking about ways in which looking at the state in relation to every single individual, like how do we think about each and every individual as part of the collective conscious? So it means that whatever decision you take, you really have to factor into different minority groups, ethnic groups. Because during the colonial period, there was so much division that was caused in order to further exploit the people. So I think once you further understand that and you live in a society and you start doing well for yourself,
you need to think about the social.
You need to start thinking about how, because until then, there is no sense in having any power when actually that power cannot affect people positively around you. Because children need to grow up very differently, and that's the kind of system that I
you know, when a young man of your age, you know, with so much wisdom, you know, is forgive me, but I just can't stop revering whatever it is that you do.
But young people are supposed to be wise, actually. It's just that things have changed.
Yeah,
there are places where when you go, there are young people that actually take responsibility, that make decisions. But we live in a society where we always think that you have to be very
old before you can take some responsibilities.
No, but so much has changed in the world. Technology, back in our father's days.
We will come to talk about all of these things and more. But let's continue with the family background. Yes. Did you grow up in a monogamous family, and how did your siblings and your relationship with them help you in life?
Oh, yes. So my father has had 4 wives.
Okay.
So I grew up in my immediate family with my dad's children. We are 10.
Okay.
But I grew up in a much larger family of like brothers, cousins, and all that.
Okay.
So it's a very large family.
Yeah.
And I think, in as much as possible, of course, when you come from a polygamous family, it's not very smooth.
Yeah.
We all know that as a reality.
Yeah.
But we try as much as possible to accommodate everything, and then we live together peacefully. I studied when I went to Pope John Senior High School.
Okay.
I was there with my senior brother, Abdul-Jalil Mahama.
Okay.
He works here in Tamale.
Okay.
And when my 2 other brothers, Aziz and Yusuf, they both went to St. Peter's Senior High, and were there also together at some point.
Okay.
When Yusuf was in, I think, in his 3rd year or so, Aziz was in his 1st year.
Okay.
And when I also went to Pope John, Majid was in his 3rd year, and I was in the 1st year.
Okay.
So it was actually very good, because when you go to secondary school, the seniors like to target the juniors, things like that. But he was very protective.
Okay.
So it was very, very good. And also there was a lot that I learned from him in terms of how to hold myself within the school, because everyone respected him. He was very disciplined and very gentle. So there was a lot to learn from that going forward.
Okay. All right. Wow. So let's now come to your education. Of all the courses in the world, when we were growing up, when you are asked what you want to do, is either you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and all of these so-called prominent, professions. Why arts? And how did you get into it? Were you forced into it? And, why arts?
I don't think anyone forces their child into art. If anything, they force them out of it.
Okay.
No, but it's interesting because for me, I spent a lot of my childhood in boarding school. When I was in St. John's in Accra, we were in a boarding school together with my sister Nafisa. And I think Aziz, Manan, we're all in different boarding schools. At some point, we were at Presbyterian in Sawam.
Okay.
So for me, I wasn't too much in love with the boarding school system.
Okay.
So I always wanted to find something that I could escape from.
Okay.
So it was art that helped me, like drawing, making comics and all that. Yeah. So by the time I got to senior high school, I had so much love for it. So it made sense. It was even the family that said, "Oh, but you have to do art or something like that."
Wow.
Normally, it's not very easy for a family to support their award.
Yes.
But they were very supportive. I think it should be that way. Sometimes families don't really understand what their wards want to do, and they are also opposed to it. But I think if you don't understand it, just let them do it and then see what comes of it. So when I went to secondary school, my father was very, very supportive.
Wow.
He used to pay for extra classes for me to learn all kinds of things.
Wow.
There were materials I bought when I was in secondary school to learn. Even in art, we have these oil paints, painter's oil, like the professional types. I was buying all those things and I was experimenting with them. So by the time I had gone to the university, I had built so much confidence, even within the field itself. So I think the support really, really, really helped. Yes.
Wow. I think this is something that parents at home should be learning from, because, at the end of the day, if your ward does well, the credit will come to you almost all the time. But let's move a little forward into talking about your school education life. What challenges did you face in school that nearly or actually deterred you from going forward in education? Or did you ever, have an instance where you felt that, Charlie, school is just too tough?
Oh, never.
Okay.
We are a family, everyone
wants to go to school.
Everyone is.
And so you always look up to your senior brothers and others. And
yes, whether you like it or not. Yusuf is an engineer. Majid works with the urban and roads planning department.
Yeah.
Aziz is a medical doctor who is currently in Cuba doing neurosurgery.
Okay.
My sister Anatu studied in Canada. Nafisa is a lawyer. Bintu works with Nestor. Like Faiza is a fashion. She's into fashion. She designs clothes for people. So like everyone is doing something. They are all doing really well.
When I was with Dada, Alhaji Savannah, so everybody knows him that way. I told him that he's blessed because when you read through his family, the children he has and people he has groomed, it's like he has a golden touch. Anything he touches goes to become something good. So let's come to now talk about jobs that you have taken. You are into art. I don't know if you have ever actually worked for someone else.
I've never done that actually. When I was in school, what I used to do is that I used to paint portraits for people, families and all that, and I used to use whatever money I earned in order to buy more materials and experiment. Yeah, the ultimate was to experiment further and find new forms in which the arts could be more interesting. I have to say a very big thank you to Mr. Al-Hassan Dani, the MD of Stanbic Bank. When I was in high school and then also in university, he was a very big patron. He commissioned me to do paintings of his brother, who was I think he was the chief here in the north. And then he owned a clinic in Kumasi, Bomsu Clinic. Yes. So, and several other paintings that I did for him. So that really helped. He was very supportive. I used to sit with him and have conversations and all that. So all those people were
patronizing you and
good role models at that point. Yes. And so it really helped. So that way I didn't really have to go and do any other work because art is very tricky. Once you move out of it and you start doing other things, because it's not like any other regular.
It's just like reading the Quran. You leave it for some months, you take it, you cannot do it again.
I'm telling you. So once you have to stay with it. So I had to find ways in sustaining the practice from within itself. Yes. So,
wow. So let's talk about any role models in the arts industry that you looked up to when you were growing up.
I'll talk about the last 14 years when I was at the university. We have a lecturer there who is called Dr. Karikacha Sedu. He's been like a godfather to us. Like we've learned practically everything from him. When we went to the university, he was one of few lecturers who was employed at the time. Because I think he's around 51. So in terms of generation, he's not within Dawson's generation whose current exhibition is at SEC. But he's the generation or 2 generations after Dawson. So he was very much interested in like shifting the discourse. Because the curriculum which we were studying with before was based on an old British model. So nothing really much had changed. There was no sense of experimentation amongst the students and all that. So he came and he shifted everything. So the discourse became very, very tough in that sense. It became really, really sophisticated. So that really helped us in order to further liberate ourselves in terms of thinking about creating something like SCCA. So for being that point within our generation that has shifted that, he's one of the most significant things that have ever happened within our history.
Wow. This is interesting and intriguing, But I know you've just said you have never taken a job from anyone, but have you employed people in your art work?
Yes, over the years, I've worked with many different people. Like the projects I work on normally are large-scale projects.
So you need a lot of hands.
So there are projects that I've done in Greece, in Germany, in the US, Italy, like across Europe. And we always employ people there through the institutions that I work with. And also.
So that means you employ even whites.
Yes. It doesn't
That's what I want to hear. When you are here, you think that a black man can never employ a white man. A black man from Tamale here in the north, in Dagbando, is employing white men. We can also do it. You are a serious inspiration to a lot of us, the youth, and I can't thank you enough for making up time with me on the program today. Here we are going for a very quick commercial break. I'll be back shortly after, and we continue the conversation with Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Mahama, an artist and the owner of Savannah Center for Contemporary Art. We'll be back shortly. Every week, my team and I work tirelessly to bring to you prominent Northerners, one at a time. They tell us their stories of how they grew up, the struggles they have been through, and how they attained greater heights in life.
I used also to paint Ankara.
What didn't I saw? I showed so many things.
I learned mechanic work, what we call fita today.
Further, they give pieces of advice to the youth and parents alike that, if adhered to, will change society positively.
I job here. This only bonle. I only bonle you go and buy.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Make another appearance. You take up the gender.
Now, you must trust in yourself, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself.
You must always pray for people to succeed in their various fields. Then Allah will give you what He thinks is best for you.
Wherever we find ourselves, let's see how do we support each other.
Young people must learn to spend within their means and to grow, always save before you spend.
So, why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, a son of Musa Kumo, with your family and friends every Friday our YouTube page, both at My Northern Achiever, for present and past videos, as well as more info. Thank you so much for staying with me on My Northern Achiever on Sagani TV. My name is Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. I am a son of Musa Kumo, and today I have with me Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Mahama. He is the owner of Savannah Center for Contemporary Art and an artist, so to speak. And we've been talking about his life and family and education, and now we want to go a little further into speaking about the life principles. You know, at your age, seriously, in our part of the world, it hardly happens that at your age you are able to achieve that much for yourself, and it's just that maybe not many people follow art in this part of the world. But for people who follow art, you are an international name. You have been on BBC and other international, platforms a lot of times. What has been your life principles that has pushed you to this level at this age?
I think it's just doing the best that you can. Yeah, not compromising on the things that you do. Okay. I think one of the big problems within our generation is that young people always tend to think that they have time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they never, there's still time. There's still time. Yeah, there's still time. And also, they never really think about consequence. Yeah. They always think they can eat their cake and have it. Yeah. And also, a lot of people make a lot of decisions just based on themselves. But it's always important to put a lot of things into perspective. Okay. So for instance, when I started working, when I was in school and I started working as an artist internationally, the first thing that I said to myself was that, because when we were in art school, based on, we didn't even just looking at art alone, even just based on the history of art in Ghana, we don't have institutions like modern art, contemporary institutions and things like that. So the question was always that, how do we factor that into our production systems? Like, how do we factor that into the way we make work? Yeah. So that's how come I started making these large-scale works. And making works that didn't really need those institutions, but works that could cover buildings, that could use materials that were so common that anyone could experience it. Yeah. So the interpretations and meanings that would come out of it. But knowing that at the end of the day, when that thing translates, let's say, into an economic value, into money, what becomes of it? So I started thinking, maybe it's important to build a studio or an institution which can give a certain sense of value back into, let's say, practices, people who've done work like Dawson and other people across a generation, who our generation, we hardly know anything about. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I had to think about that. So actually, SCCA was actually built, the very first when I started earning money as an artist, the very first time I earned money, actually, that was the seed money that I put into building it over 5 years ago.
Now, this is like, how much did it cost you to build this huge? Like, my producers would be putting an insert of this particular.
Yes.
But how much did it take you to put up this structure?
I can't really say the amount, but it was a lot. And it's not just this. We have another space that we are currently working on, which I'm.
And you built this with money that you accrued from paintings?
Yes, just from making work as an artist.
How much do you sell, like, one painting?
It depends. It's not a traditional paintings as you know per se.
Okay.
But sometimes the works could be valued as much as 500,000 USD.
Wow.
So it depends.
Wow.
But it's not a system. Our field isn't like, it's like being a footballer or something where you have a manager. So we have galleries that we work with. And these galleries are representatives. They help to sell your work to museums and other institutions. And they always get a cut of 50% of the money.
Wow.
So by the time you earn your money with, let's say, the museum also asking for discounts and other things, so you're left with, it would have reduced significantly, but being a young person from Ghana.
Because imagine like something like $500,000, and then they take 50%, you are left with, let's say, 250,000.
And then let's say discount of comes, and let's say by the end you have 200,000. It's still a lot of money to be able to do something, to be able to build something with. So
actually, $100,000 in Ghana is about 600,000. 6 billion. 6 billion. It's not small value. Hey, one painting. Charlie, it's not easy. You know, my child must be an artist.
Oh,
I believe that, you know, after all of this, you know, laughter and all of this, you know, we need to really have a rethink of what we do. You know, I have struggled to go to UDS, and I am out here. You know, whatever job government will give me can never pay me even, say, 50,000 cedis a month, unless I'm into politics or some board, so that they will pay me allowances.
Hey, you get into trouble.
You know, we need to tell these politicians something. And you went to school, the same school that we went.
Yes.
You know, you went to the university, and instead of doing development communication, you went to do art.
Yeah.
And today, art is giving you. Now, this is to my proximate youth, especially the senior high school students. You know, people like visual art students in Dagbon State, in Bimbisek, and all other places in the country.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the opportunity to be an artist, it is telling you that you can be somebody in future. Let's learn from Mr. Ibrahim Mahama, and probably you could do better than he's doing. Now, let's shift a little further into your works. I know you've done some international works, some locally, but I believe your works are more international than local.
No, they are more local.
Local,
yeah. I focused a lot of my work. When I started working, most of the experiments I did were at KNUST, within the university.
Okay.
There were projects which I did there, which was highly supported by the department. We have a collective there called Black Star Lines.
Okay.
Dr. Karikacha, Buma, Castro.
Okay.
There are a couple of lecturers that were very supportive of students who are actually really interested in, let's say, pushing their practice and all that. Yeah, so I did a lot of experiments there. I also did projects in Kumasi and in Accra, in Ho and other places. I've never really done any.
Of all the places in the country, why did you decide to build this edifice here in Tamale? You know, I believe you could have made a lot more money. Like, I'm just playing the devil's advocate. Someone will say, okay, fine. You know, how many people in the north have attention for arts? So maybe, let me do it in the south, maybe Kumasi, Takrady, Accra, or any other place. Why Tamale?
But the center is non-profit to begin with, so we don't earn any money.
Okay.
So the same money I earned in building it is the same money I have to earn in order to pay all the people who I've employed working at the center.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's completely free. And we do workshops. We have an artistic director, Salom Kuji, who is also a current PhD student at KNUST. We have an administrator, Mashoud, who takes care of the center. We have a librarian, Salah, 2 national service personnel, Sarah and Sakite. And we also have other employees like that help with like keeping the center alive, like repainting walls, cleaning.
around.
Yes, so all these people have to like really keep the center, and in order for the kids, because our aim actually is to impact on the kids within the north. You know, when you build something, there's a question, a lot of people have asked me that question again and again. I didn't just build it here because I was born here, but it's also because of the economic conditions here, and also because of the, you know, in the north, we've been set back quite a lot. A lot. Yeah. So it's the question was, how do you create or build something that actually gives a new perspective to the people who are living within that space? Like, so for instance, people always say that, oh, like poor people don't really have any sense of interest for art, blah blah blah. But it's not so. Art is not really necessarily a poor or a rich thing. It's more or less about how we can further create new openings so people can really understand the world or come into it from different perspectives.
Let me come to this. Is art naturally gifted, you know, thing, or is there a way you can twist somebody to become an artist, even if the person, like, you have an interest in it, but you are not naturally talented into, you don't know how to draw?
No,
can you actually teach?
Yeah, so that's where the problem is about the drawing. Art is not necessarily about drawing. The drawing thing comes from a much older system, from the Renaissance and through the Art Academy. So like in the late 19th century, there was the avant-garde artists, those artists who were saying that, oh, we cannot leave art to the aristocrats and all those people. Now we have to find ways in which we can break the forms of art and all that. So you have, let's say, Cubism, Impressionism, blah, blah, blah. Even change the subject matter in terms of, first, if you were a poor person, you will never be painted. Only paintings were done of only rich people. But we are talking about that in terms of Western art, and that was what the system that we used and that we studied in art schools. And when you travel around the world, mostly that's system. But even when you're looking at our own system here, for instance, when you go to North, to Seregu and other places, you realize that the women were the ones who were painting. In Europe, women were not recognized as painters. So here, women were recognized as painters who were painting the houses, and they were using, let's say, traditional stories, folklores, and other things in painting onto the surfaces of the building. So painting wasn't something that was like on a frame that was done and hanged in the room.
Put it on a building, or sometimes they used to decorate inside their room.
Exactly. And even the painting included all sorts of things. So let's say animals and other things were subject matter within the painting itself. But in Europe, for an animal, it was, first it was a king or let's say a biblical story and blah blah. So a lot has changed actually over the years in with regards to even looking at subject matter and form when it comes to painting. So now you have scientists, mathematicians. There's a current artist at KNUST. Her name is Tracy Thompson, and she's also a painter, but she doesn't paint as we know. But she takes, let's say, plantain, this yam, cassava and other things, and then through scientific experiments and other things, she'll change the chemical composition and turn it into some kind of an object. So when you see it, you don't really think of it as a painting. So the subject of painting has changed. Even mathematicians, people who are launching things into space as a work of art. So first of all, we really need to understand that, and that's what SCCA is for. To really introduce the current generation into different ways of thinking about ways that we can produce art. Because if I was just thinking of being an artist as someone just painting, I wouldn't have been able to do all the things that I've done.
So now let's creep now deep into SCCA, Savannah Center for Contemporary Art. What actually do you do? What facilities do you have here?
So here at the center, it's one big hall. It was originally designed as a studio space, but later on, a year after, I converted it, and it was built actually by my father, Savannah Constructions, because he was so excited by the fact that I'd wanted to come and live here, because most people would want to live elsewhere. When you haven't been able to create the same experiences for your people,
then you don't go and put it somewhere where you don't actually necessarily need it.
Because they have too much of it, there. But it's very easy to think that way, to want to live there, because everything works. Yes, it's enticing, but you have to think far ahead in terms of what a generation can learn from it. So we have a library. with books which have been donated by other institutions and also books that are bought over the years. And then we have just general amenities, washrooms. We also have a studio space which we're hoping that our artists that we employ as national service personnel could also use. Okay. And we have an exhibition space.
Okay, so that you can easily do exhibitions, so that other artists can also bring their products to exhibit.
Not necessarily. SCCA has an aim. The idea was to start with doing retrospectives. And retrospective is more or less about looking at an artist, an architect, scientist, or whoever, an archaeologist, someone who has done work over, let's say, 40, 50 years. Okay. And then looking at what that work has done. And then bringing it into, putting it into context. Okay. So with Dawson's exhibition, that's what we had to do. Dawson is someone who trained, he was one of the first 3 students that trained at KNUST at the arts department. Okay. And he later on went to London, to the Slade Art School to study, came back, worked at the information service department. His father, before him, was an architect. Okay. He was one of the people that designed, let's say, part of Legon, the campus. The Independence Monument in Accra. Okay. He worked within the colonial period. Wow. His father unfortunately died a bit young. So, so if you're looking at all these people who have done works over years, we really need to put them into context. Yeah, and then try to emulate. Yes, whilst we are educating children about it, and also creating new spaces. As I said before, SCCA is not the only space that I've been working on. There's another space which I've been working on. That will not be called SCCA when it's done. It will be called Red Clay because of the architecture and the material that has been used in building it. So how different is that one going to be from SCCA? Well, actually, it's a much bigger space than here. It's like an entire community. So we have different buildings. So we're going to have cinema spaces there. So the idea is to be able to work with the film community here, to be able to find ways to help them to develop much better stories and make better films, and also be able to show their films to larger audience. We have a parliament space that I'm building there called the Parliament of Ghosts, which is going to be hosting talks, debates, lectures, and discussions. We're going to, the idea is also to have an art school. That means it's going to be like more like an auditorium. Not an auditorium, it's like a parliament. So imagine how the British Parliament is. Yes. So it's something we are building there physically. So how many seats? We're looking at around 400 seats. Wow. Yes. So it's something that we're currently working on. Yeah. And then we also have exhibition spaces, studio spaces. We have houses where we can invite artists from abroad and also artists from here to live together and work. All of these things that you're doing, what is the motivation? You know, what is motivating you to do these things? To be able to open up a system. That's it. Wow. Yeah. We need to be able to create a system. I don't want my children to grow up to have the same conversations that I'm having. Like to talk about the fact that, oh, we don't have this system, we don't have this social amenity, where artists or scientists cannot come together to collaborate. But once it starts from infrastructure, because even issues regarding repatriation and all that, like for instance, even here, let's take archaeology for an example. Yeah. When you go to the villages and all that, when they are farming, they stumble upon graves of objects and all that. Yeah. In the past, of course, we know those things have been looted, they've been sent to Europe and other places. But even here, if we had museum spaces that were built, these objects would be there. Traditional systems, chiefs would give objects, children could go and learn more about these objects. If you are a Dagomba and a Mampusi, you will not be quarreling over unnecessary things when the foundation of these things have been part of your upbringing. So that is what I'm looking at. But it starts from the infrastructure. So not just in terms of building, but I was also interested in using other objects. So for instance, I've been in conversation with like people who owned old aircrafts that were in Accra and other places. So I started buying those aircrafts. So when you go to there, we realize that we have 6 airplanes. Wow. Yeah, I think my producers would be inserting some of all of these things so that we can have a look at them. You know, I'm here having a conversation with Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Mahama, you know, a contemporary, you know, and he's doing very, very big things here in Tamale at SCCA. And I love this part that he says that he's just looking about the younger generation. You know, change doesn't come to us. We need to bring change to ourselves. Exactly. And then we don't also always have to look up to government all the time. He's very, very young, in his early 30s. He's bringing this kind of change. What change are you bringing yourself? We go for a very quick commercial break on this note. We're back shortly after, and we continue. This is Sagani TV's My Northern Achiever. Don't go away, we're back shortly.
Every week, my team and I
used also to paint Ankara.
What didn't I saw? I saw so many things.
I learned mechanic work, what you call fitter today.
Further, they give pieces of advice to the youth and parents alike that, if adhered to, will change society positively.
I job here. This only bonle. I only bonle you go and buy.
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Now, you must trust in yourself, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself.
You must always pray for people to succeed in their various fields. Then Allah will give you what He thinks is best for you.
Wherever we find ourselves, let's see how do we support each other.
Young people must learn to spend within their means and to grow. Always save before you spend.
Quel que soit va présentement, ministre de ma, ou la cabane d'aller de Banam Yes, Nagamo Kabela,
So, why not join me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, a son of Musa Kumo, with your family and friends every Friday at 8. Subscribe to our YouTube page, both at My Northern Achiever, for present and past videos, as well as more info. Thank you so much for staying with me, Abdul-Jalil Naabeli, son of Musa Kumo on Sagani TV on My Northern Achiever. Every Friday, this is how we do it. And today I'm with Ibrahim Mahama. He is the owner of the Savannah Center for Contemporary Art. He's an artist, a painter. In the very near past, a lot of parents would chase their children away from being artists. And today, he has used art to do a lot of things for himself. And the family is proud of him, and we are proud of him. And I believe everybody watching right about now who is a Northerner should be proud of Ibrahim Mahama for what he is doing for himself, for the North, for Ghana, and even for the world at large. Ibrahim, so we're back. And let's talk a little more about your exhibitions. You know, the first time I heard about you was on BBC. I was amazed. I was really, really amazed, because I was like, wow. So somebody from Tambali, a village man, so to speak, can actually go to that level where he's interviewed on BBC. You can't imagine the number of listeners and viewers, so to speak. Now, before I even come to your exhibitions, how does that make you feel that you get that recognition on such an international platform?
I don't know. For me, it's just always been normal, because ever since I started working, because of the work, the kind of work that I was doing, there's always been a lot of attention because of what the work promises to give. And it's not just based on just the material form of the work or how it looks, but it's also based on the principles that comes with the work, even just based on the idea of establishing SEC here in Tamale.
So it means that the principles that comes from it usually is your satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. So being able to recognize the fact that we need to do things like building things like SCCA, which gives maybe a whole new voice to a generation. Those are some of the things that actually give a lot more value to the work itself. Yeah, but sometimes people don't really understand that aspect. Yeah, they just think about the work as in monetary terms, but it's not just about that. Of course, people always say, oh, fine, you've made money out of it, so now you can afford to say that it's not about money. But it's not necessarily also about money. Yeah, sometimes it's based on the principles and the value systems inherent within the work itself.
So I know maybe if I ask you how many exhibitions have you done abroad, I would be asking for far too much, because it wouldn't be easy for you to count.
There are quite a lot.
What remarkable exhibitions can you recount that you've done abroad?
Oh, well, I've participated in a lot of major exhibitions. Like, for instance, One of the first very major exhibitions I did was in Venice.
Okay.
In Italy. Okay. Yeah, it's called the Venice Biennale. Okay. So, like, for instance, if it was football, okay, it will be like the World Cup.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
but the first time World Cup of Art, and it happens every 2 years. And it was the first time I participated in it. It was like 120 years since it had been established. Wow. But I was the first person practicing in Ghana and living in Ghana who had been invited to it in over 120 years. And I was the youngest artist also ever to be invited to it. So mostly because when you're invited to Venice, you are either old or you are dead.
Charlie, you have to enter the Guinness Book of Records, man.
Yeah, and then I participated in it again the following year, and then just this year also I participated again where Ghana, for the first time, Ghana participated. So they have individuals that are invited, and also countries come to participate. They bring their own artists. And this was the first time which Ghana participated.
Is it strictly by invitation? Strictly by invitation. And they fished you out?
Well, if you do work and the work is good, no matter where you are, even if you are hiding in the cave, so it doesn't really matter where you live. Whether you're in Tamale, you are in Savulugu, it doesn't matter. Once you are doing work that is good, people will come. Because ever since we established SCCA, if you know the number of people that have come here within our field, which ordinarily, they would have never, like, they wouldn't come to Tamale for anything. But all those people have come and gone.
And this is another thing that I believe Tamale Metro Assembly and the Northern Regional Coordinating Council should be looking at. This is more of something that can give us tourist attractions. But, you know, have you actually had any conversation with either the Tamale Metro Assembly or the Northern Regional Coordinating Council about how to kind of harness, you know, this particular center?
Sometimes you try to start a conversation, but it's not so easy. Because it's a non-profit institution, a lot of people, when you have conversations with them, they tend to think you are wasting your time. Like, why would you spend all this money in creating this institution for nothing? Yeah, people never really understand. Why would you do something like this? Yeah, but...
No, but I think this is something that the mayor of Tamale, the regional minister, and especially the Ghana Tourist Authority, you know, Regional Tourist Board, should be looking up to this. Because this is something that, like, if marketed very well, would bring in a lot of, you know, tourist attraction into Tamale and the north. And who knows, you know, it could also give us some revenue and other stuff.
Exactly. That's the whole point about it. Eventually, that there will be other institutions that will be created out of it. So that's why I started looking at expanding it in Jena on an Anton.
I just believe that if Regional Coordinating Council and Tamale Metro Assembly, if you are listening, this is something that you should take up. I believe that if we take it up, sometimes we don't even have to wait for Ibrahim to come to you. You know, once you are in the offices and it is about you, you know, harnessing whatever little resources you have to make your city a focal point.
Yes,
in the world. I think it is worth doing. Now, let's now come to talk about your advice to the youth. You are youth yourself, but you know. So it is not out of question if I should ask you to give us a piece of advice, because you have I believe you think you have done nothing, but for people like us watching from afar, we believe that you have done it all, you have seen it all. You know, what advice would you have for us so that at least we can also wake up?
Well, for me, I'm still learning and I'm still producing and still making. And there are a lot of people who you work with in order to get those done. Yeah, but I think that it's very important for us to have a sense of belief. Yeah, and faith, you know. A lot of young people these days, they have no sense of belief and faith.
Wow.
Not just in terms of thinking about it in a religious sense, but also just in life, about doing something. You find people who are doing really interesting things. So for instance, someone is interested in, let's say, farming. But because maybe the idea of farming is not something that is really, it's looked down upon.
Yeah, it's as though it's not attractive. So.
Yeah, but it's not about something which is attractive. But once you have an urge to do something, I think you just have to stick to it. As long as morally, you are not going to, for instance, step on others in order to be able to do it. And then at the end of the day, it's going to benefit like other people. I think you just have to follow it slowly.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes it looks almost impossible, but you'd be surprised what it can yield at the end of the day. Not just, and I think we also shouldn't just look at what we can earn immediately. And that has been the problem with Ghana. Yeah, even when you're looking at the political system and all that, it's so disgusting.
Just come in, you want to do so many things that would have that you would use 20 years to do.
But you have to take time. You really have to take time. And you also have to factor into the communities, the generations, the historical basis. There's so much that needs to be taken into account. So a lot of young people, they just need to take time to listen, and also because when we started SCCA, the idea was to start by looking at acknowledging the significant work that had been done by the older generation. A lot of young people just think that the world in which they live in, it was just there and they came into it. Yeah. But there are a lot of people who've laid certain foundations or have done things that have inspired us in one way or the other.
To get us to this point.
So once we begin to acknowledge those systems and those individuals, and then we can take it from there. Yeah.
Wow. So, in fact, I'm running out of time actually, but I would want to push you a little further to finding out about where you want to get to in the very near future. You know, you've gotten to this point. I know you are expanding SCCA.
Yes.
Now, beyond the expansion, what next? Where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, it's not necessarily about myself, because for me, I think that my work itself is about, as I said before, opening up a system. So, for instance, the other space which we are building, the idea is to have cinema space, to have an art school eventually there, to have residencies where all kinds of disciplines, so people working within engineering, architecture, arts, can all come together and collaborate on ideas and things like that. Ways of collaborating, let's say, with UDS, Tamale Poly, KNUST, to create an institution that actually taps from all these different existing institutions also. I don't know. For me, I don't think that there is something that I really want to build for myself, because at the end of the day, what you want to do, I've done so much already. So there's a possibility now. It's only to show the generation that there's an infinite number of possibilities with regards to how we can actually create, let's say, not an alternative system per se, but just create systems that can actually work for us here, and also to give some kind of meaning also to children who are growing up.
Do you have a wife?
No.
Do you know the age that Alhaji married?
My father? My father, I'm sure he was like an old man before I still have time.
I think Alhaji has to force you to marry. So is there any woman? Is there a woman?
I have a lot of friends who need to get married, that we are trying to get. So it's a collective.
No, I don't want us to put it in a collective something, but I want us to push you to the wall. You have to tell us when you are going to marry.
It will come. I need to settle at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to be able to do, because one of the occupational hazards of the work that I do is traveling.
Yeah.
I travel quite a lot.
So you may not have that time for your family.
Exactly. I travel so much, but I'm hoping to take a break.
I believe if you get a woman, she will understand you for the work that you do, and at least she would understand that. At least once you are like this and she loves you like that and she wants to settle down with you, why not?
So right now, are you trying to market me?
No,
I think it's something that will come naturally.
I believe you should be married by now. I believe you should be married by now. But let's put it aside and then let's conclude on this particular session. Now, do you listen to music?
Yes.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Every kind of music, from Northern Tamale, what's his name, Shalif Gali, to every Western music,
any kind of music that is nice to the ear.
That is good. I've even, some of the works I've done in the last years, I've even titled them after musicians' album. So recently there was a series of work that I did that I actually titled after a number of tracks that Sheriff Gali had done in the past. I've also titled some works after Machidede. So I think music is a very good sense of inspiration.
Wow.
So
how do you relax? Because all this hard work, and we need you alive. We don't have to.
Unfortunately,
I don't want you to break down one of these days. So.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do any of that, but it's something that will come. I'm hoping to take a break at some point, but for now, we just have to put in the work. And so that's what the younger generation have to understand. Let's put in the work. And we can't necessarily just rely on the state. We also have a huge responsibility. So imagine you woke up tomorrow in, let's say, a state of apocalypse where the world is in chaos or crisis, and then we had to rebuild. What would we do? What decisions would we take? For me, that's what I always ask myself. Imagine all of that doesn't exist. There's no sense of funding from anywhere. We have to really build from scratch.
Like there was a day I was chatting with a friend and I asked him a question. Imagine today MTN says they are no longer operating in Ghana. Vodafone says the same. Airtel Tigo says the same. We don't have an indigenous telecom. What happens to Ghana? You know, so we need to begin to think outside the box. And I am happy that you are thinking the same. And you are not into cyber fraud. You are not into gaja. You are not into any of these social vices. Yet you are able to make it to this particular point at age 32. That is incredible. So anybody watching at home, you should know that you can also get to this point without having to go into Sakawa, cyber fraud, or whatever it is that they call it. So now, what would be your final words to everybody watching right about now?
Oh, well, I think that to the younger generation, they should take their education a lot more seriously. They should be a lot more respectful. And to everyone else, I think we should have a lot more faith within our society and be a lot more open. I think the spirit of generosity, which we've always had within our society, we really have to reinforce, because the Western system is based more on a more individualistic approach. Everyone to himself. But when you come here, even in Tamale, like you see how people live, like during weddings and events and all that, people just go around, people move. So we really have to keep each other's back. And that's how come we can actually create institutions like this.
Wow. But I had wanted to go, but even before I go, what word do you have for anybody watching about
SCCA?
Like, what would you tell people out there about this particular? I'm just giving you an opportunity to market your place.
Well, I think that, so we are a young institution that is actually trying to build upon the cultural heritage that we have, not just here in the north, but in Ghana. And also trying to open it up to the rest of the world, because Tamale can also be one of the centers with regards to the cultural field in the world, where we have archaeological museums, we have like modern art, contemporary arts museums, we have cinemas where people around the region can come and experience documentary films, traditional films, modern films and all that. So we actually, it's a non-profit institution. So what we also rely on is the generosity of other people. So if there are people out there who actually want to collaborate with the institution, or not necessarily through monetary donation, but also just through time and also a sense of engagement, helping us with our programming and all that, it's very much welcome. So I think as we go on and we do more programs and people become more familiar with the institution, some of these things will also just develop naturally. So normally I don't really like to push it so much. I think, first of all, we have to do a great work for people to be able to see they can come in and support.
Do you have plans of going to other places to create same in future?
Yeah, eventually, once Tamale is established as a base, I think that the idea is to be able to extend the institution into all other regions. Recently I was in Kosovo and I was discussing with a friend, a very good friend of mine, and they were asking, but is it possible for us to adapt SCCA here in Kosovo? And I said, yes, why not? Even in Europe and other places, it's possible for it to extend. So that's what I was saying. When you start something, just keep true to it. Eventually, it will inspire even people not just here, but people all around the world.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mohammed Ibrahim Mahama has been my guest on my Northern Achiever today. And I believe that everybody watching at home, especially the youth, if you are Again, next week, my name is Abdul-Jalil Naabeli. I am the son of Sagani TV. Bye bye for now.